Okay, so let's continue on. This isn't easy. I understand. I want you to know, though, what I did is I made number 2 and number 3 very similar, okay? So let's start with number 2. Let's see if you know our number 3. What do? How do I graph a point? I go left 3, and I go up 6. So the point's right here, right? Everything starts here, so I connect here. What I'm looking for is how many degrees is it from here to here? What is that degree measure? 0, 90, 180, 270, 360. I know my answer should be somewhere between 90 and 180. Less than 180, more than 90. Okay? Now, if I'm going to do this, I have to draw a triangle. Well, everything is always based on the reference angle, the x-axis. So the way that's going to work is I do this, and then I do this, and then I do this, and then I draw my little thing, and that's theta that I'm going to figure out. I'm going to draw this a little bit bigger over here so it's easier for me. I need to figure out theta. This is left 3, up 6, just like I did before. I'm going to divide by 3. Negative 1, 2. And then we know from the last problem with the Pythagorean theorem, rad 5, which really means this is 3 rad 5. That's got to be no problem, okay? Not maybe now, but by the end of the week. So make sure you're asking those good questions if you have them, because I'm sure you're going to. This is a hard one. Okay, so that means now I'm going to go sine of theta equals, cosine of theta equals, tan of theta equals. Get my cute little theta, highlight my theta. All right, sine is, look at the green, opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tan is opposite over adjacent. All of those need to be simplified. 2 rad 5 over 5, negative rad 5 over 5, and negative 2. Now, I don't know if you remember from the last video, but I said that, remember how in the last problem, it gave us, one of them gave us the first quadrant, one of us gave us the second quadrant, one of them gave us the fourth quadrant, but the answer was actually in the third quadrant. So it will always be a first quadrant answer when it's positive. So which one of these will be in the first quadrant? Good, sine, because it's positive. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my calculator and I'm going to plug those in. So let's look. Sine, because it was positive, told me it was in the first quadrant. So sine told me it's 63.4 degrees. Okay, let me move that up. And then I go to cosine. Cosine tells me it's 116. So sine told me 63. Cosine told me 116.6. And then tan told me negative 63.4. So they gave me an answer in the fourth quadrant, the second quadrant, and the first quadrant. Okay? Now, if I look here, where is everything happening? Well, I'm in the fourth, third, second quadrant. So that means my cosine would have been the one to use to get the answer. Okay? Now, what if you go, honestly, Ms. Rifkin, I don't want to have to do all three of them. I don't want to do inverse sine, inverse cosine, and inverse tan and figure out what to do. So what I do is I try to pick the first one. So let's say I picked the first one and it was 63.4. I know it's not 63.4, but if I make a triangle, I should be able to reflect that triangle and make the same thing. And if that means from here to here, because 0 is 63.4, here to here is 63.4. So if I drew this, let's say all I had was my 180, and I knew the reference angle was 63.4, but I need to figure out that angle. Well, isn't the distance from here to here just this minus this gives me that? So I could go 180 minus 63.4, and I get 116.6. So I can use my reference angle to figure out which one it goes into. Or I could just do all three and see which one matches and make it work. And we'll work on that. So that means I know my answer is 116.6 degrees. And I know that it was cosine that helped me out with that. Okay. All right. Let's do the next one. Figure out what quadrant it's in. Right 2. Down 4. Okay. Go here. Make my triangle. Everything's always got to be based on the x-axis, which means I'm trying to figure out how many degrees it is. Where do we start? All the way over here. Okay, 0, 90, 180, 270, 360. So I know my answer should be somewhere between 270 and 360. Okay, so now I know that. I'm going to come over here, draw my triangle. I know my theta is here. So there's my theta. From here to here is 2. From here to here was -4. Before I do the Pythagorean theorem, guess what I'm going to do? You're right, I'm going to divide by 2. 1, -2. And we've actually already done this one before, haven't we? Because it was rad 5. How long is the actual length of the hypotenuse? 2 rad 5. Okay. So now I am going to do sine of theta, cosine of theta, tan of theta. Okay? Line, line, line. Opposite over adjacent. I'm simplifying because we've done it before. Adjacent over hypotenuse. And opposite over adjacent. I'm going to take the answers, put them in my calculator. Hold on. I graphed them in my calculator. Sine told me -63.4 degrees. So that one's sine. Cosine told me, remember when I said if it's positive, it's going to be in the first quadrant, 63.4 degrees. Tan also told me -63.4. All right, let's go through here. What quadrant do I want? Well, I want the fourth quadrant. Oh, they actually told me the fourth quadrant. So is the answer -63.4 degrees? No. Remember, I do not like things that are negative. So I want you to find the coterminal. How do you find the coterminal? You go the other way, add 360. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to add 360. And theta equals 297.4. I'm not sure if I'm doing that right. Nope. 0.6. I'm probably off. But you get the idea. Okay? All right. Now, let's go to number 5. Number 5 is a little bit different, but you'll be okay. Well, it's saying don't go left or right, just go up 4. Well, how the heck am I supposed to draw a triangle? How the heck am I supposed to do a reference angle? I can't do that. Well, you can find the measure of that. That's 90 degrees because from here to here is 90 degrees. So I know theta. Now I have to set it up. Sine, cosine, tan. So the problem is, how am I supposed to do SOHCAHTOA if there isn't even a triangle? So I want you to go back to the unit circle. And in the way beginning, you're going to see this. I want you to, and you'll understand. We'll get into the unit circle later, okay? But the first value represents cosine, and the second value represents sine. So if that's the case, I come over here. And if I have 0, 4, and this represents cosine, and this represents sine, then I go cosine of theta equals 0, cosine or sine of theta equals 4. Well, how do I do tangent? Well, tangent is equal to sine over cosine. And some of you go, how did you know that? Well, isn't tan opposite over adjacent? And isn't sine opposite? And cosine is adjacent? And they both have hypotenuses that cancel each other out. So if you're going to maybe bubble something, this might be something good to bubble. So then to get tan, it would be sine over cosine. But 4 over 0 is undefined, so you can't actually find the value of theta. So how would you know I'm right? I would have to come over here, get my calculator, not do inverse tan, and I'll do inverse cosine, or inverse sine of 4. Okay. Inverse sine of cosine. Remember, sometimes it knows what it's doing and sometimes it doesn't. And there's your 90 degrees. So you know, you're good to go. So what if I gave you P8, 0? What would the answer be? It would either be 0 degrees or 360, because 8, 0 is on the line. Okay, that's the lesson.